Hello, my friend. Um, I wanted to talk about something today that is a little bit hard to put into words. So please bear with me while I try to formulate this. And if you have any thoughts on this, I'd love to get your input because I'm still trying to mm, wrap my head around it, really. And it's about fake niceness or pretended niceness or enforced niceness. It's been a bit of a conundrum. Is that the word? Conundrum for me on the spiritual path because it's really sweet to be welcomed into a community or to have people light up when you approach them. So this is not only a criticism, it's just that um, what once felt like a warm embrace and a welcoming, after a while, at least for me, it can start to feel more like a hindrance or a blockage. And just to give you roughly what I talk about, like let's say um, you go to some kind of spiritual meeting and people say, "Oh, it's so nice to meet you. I'm so glad that you're here." But you're not really feeling that. You're feeling a bit of hesitation from their side, as though they're expecting you to meet them in a certain way. So they have kind of an agenda for how our interaction is going to be like. And that actually hinders connection and it hinders love. And it, for me, I think what niceness is trying to achieve is to create a loving atmosphere, is to create safety and belonging, but it has the opposite effect. Because that means that I am not really welcome to show up exactly as I am in this moment, which might be I show up with tiredness. I might show up with feeling alone. Actually, maybe I'm not happy to see this person. I'm just recognizing this person as a fellow human. But right now, I'm not in contact with joy in this interaction. And when that is expected of me, it creates more separation than it creates unity. And I've also experienced that this is a little bit taboo to talk about. Or not taboo, but it's a sensitive subject. Because in spiritual communities, there is this unspoken, um, how do you say, like, an unspoken expectations that everyone should love each other. And we should all accept everyone's odd little ways of expressing themselves. And that can sometimes mean overstretching or putting a fake layer on top of what we're actually feeling. Yeah. And one place that hammered home for me, it's been a process over many years, but a few months ago, there was a commentary on a YouTube video. I don't think it was mine. I think it was someone else's. And the comment was quite dismissive. It was something along the line of, "I don't like what you're writing. I think that your opinion is not grounded in blah, blah, blah." So it was pretty harsh, but not attacking. And it was kind of stating an opinion that didn't really add anything to the discussion. Um, and I thought that, oh, how rude. How rude of this person not to um, package it in a really sweet way. And I was thinking, oh, maybe this is my Swedish conditioning, because in Sweden, we don't like confrontation or we don't like conflict. So what we usually do is that we don't express our thoughts, or when we don't like something, we don't say it. We just make this little face and maybe withdraw with our body language, and then we expect other people to understand it, or like because we haven't officially been rude. And then I almost laughed at myself a little bit because it's if I would have the same opinion as that person who expressed something in the comment section, I have just been conditioned into not expressing it. That doesn't make my values better. That doesn't make my understanding of other people. My curiosity isn't better just because I put a layer on top of it that is my conditioned niceness. Because I don't allow my true, well, in this case, I read in some limitation in curiosity or some limitation in wanting to see someone else's perspective. And I'm pretty sure we all have that. I've seen it in myself. But once that happened, when I go a bit like, oh, I don't like what this person is doing, this is not for me, I pretend I don't feel like that and then phrase it in a kinder way. So where do I want to come with that? Well, basically that I realized for myself that, Josephine, actually, that is not such a kind thing to do, because you're blocking a real meeting from happening. You're not showing the other person what you actually feel. Yeah. I realized I haven't introduced myself. My name is Josephine, and if you're new to my channel, then warmly welcome. This is a bit of an open philosophy, and I'd love to have you here in the room for a discussion, but YouTube limits that. So I'm kind of counting on you wanting to share your opinion and your thoughts and your experience in the comment section. Yeah. Fake niceness. And usually, like the Swedish culture, for instance, is so conditioned into being nice that it just happens automatically. But what it does, I find more and more, is in a group setting where you're expected to be nice, it creates a bit of anxiety because people are reading the room of am I supposed to show up in this room? When I expect niceness, it's not about protecting myself, it's about trying to shield off truth, trying to make it a softer atmosphere than it actually is. The honesty in this room is that perhaps we're strangers, we're feeling nervous, we're feeling not our best. And that's not something that's aggressive. That's not something that is need to be protected. Or some people might want to protect themselves from it, but that is the truth of the room. Pretending that it's something else that's actually moving away from truth. So in a way, the kindest thing we can do to anyone is to show up with authenticity. Meet them exactly where we are from. That takes away all layers of manipulation. And that is a scary thing to do because sometimes we're nice because we want people to like us. We want to actually manipulate their image of us. And it doesn't come from love. It comes from fear. It comes from a lack. Oh, I need you to like me so I feel like I can belong. And this was one of those, I don't know if you've had that, but on the spiritual path, it's almost sometimes like you follow a little bit of friction and you end up opening a whole new room of clutter you didn't know you had on the inside. And this being nice has really been one of those for me. Realizing in how many situations in my life that I do things that I would, on top of it, label as kindness, but realizing, no, it's rude, is actually fear. I am not loving this person. I want to make them feel a certain way for my own comfort. And that is not love. That is not care. That's blocking connection. And I feel so passionate about this topic, partly because it has liberated me so much and it has challenged me a lot in what authenticity actually means. And it's made me make authenticity one of my core competences. When I don't know how to act in this moment, it's usually because I've moved away from authenticity. Because authenticity is not really, or it's the opposite of trying to show up in the world in a special way. Because Authenticity is just anchoring back into what is true right now and giving other people complete freedom to react to that, however they wish to do so. Yeah. And then there's also the other side. Does that mean that I should treat people like they're not, like they mean nothing to me? No, but that's not really authentic either. I mean, rarely it is. If I see people as nothing, as completely irrelevant for me, their well-being has no impact on me, well, then there's probably a layer in myself that I'm not being honest with. So I'm not so worried about that. That's more of a little bit of like a red light of like, you're not properly in alignment, because then other people's feelings do matter to me. And that can come out in other ways than pretending kindness. Mm. Oh, yeah. And when we stop being nice to people, when we show up authentically, or at least for myself, I've realized how odd I am. This person of being an adult, showing up in the world with all the social manners, that's just a learned reflex. That's an adaptation I've done because I've learned that that's how I'm rewarded for showing up. But when I show up with authenticity, there's much more playfulness. There's much more like power. I'm rooted in myself. There is much more easier to actually feel where my boundaries are. And I've realized that I have quite a lot of quirks. Actually, I have a whole episode about that. So if you want to dive deeper into that topic, then please do check out my video on quirkiness and why it's such an important thing to embrace on the spiritual path. Yeah, authenticity. The stuff it brings up, it rubs against my own cage a lot because it goes sometimes straight, um, vert, yeah, it creates it cracks. I don't know. It goes not in alignment with how I've been trained to show up in the world. And then sometimes I get to choose whether I want what type of uncomfortableness I want to face. Do I want to face the uncomfortableness of self-abandonment and play by the rules of society and how this room should be? Or do I want to face the uncomfortableness of staying with myself but breaking the social norms? So, yeah, there's going to be uncomfortableness. My choice is just which one do I want to hang out in right now? And it's becoming more and more evident to me that self abandonment is usually the most uncomfortable one. So, hello, social awkwardness. Yeah. And what I realized as well, actually, I used to appreciate when people were kind to me, and I still am, obviously, if it comes from real kindness, from someone actually caring about me, feeling into what I need in this moment, how am I, and it comes from love. But the kind of superficial kindness that comes from people going into hiding, there's more grief coming up. Grief because the other person is closing off from connection. We can't meet as deep right now because you are busy trying to give me what I might need rather than showing up as you, allowing life to play with life, see what energies come up between us, and allow us to perhaps not be so attracted to each other. I mean, I don't only mean romantically or sexually, but like attracted as in we're not nourishing each other so much. And that's okay. That's not really personal in that sense. It just becomes a clearer mapping of who we can have fun with, who we can um, almost like vibe with, I guess. What has this been like for you? Is this something you've encountered as well? Something you wrestle with? Yeah. Look forward to hear your perspective, and I hope to see you next time.